Grab your cocktail and get ready for this episode of the Old Fashioned Masonic Podcast. Welcome to the Old Fashioned Masonic Podcast, where we talk all things Freemasons while drinking an old fashioned. I'm Brian.
I'm Chris Collins.
You guys have seen Chris on several episodes. You hear me talking about Chris Collins. He's I don't want to say it was my project, but he was my youngest, but an appointment in 2015 to be on the line for Albert Pike, and he just came, and this is no secret, this is no fluff for him because we've talked about it offline. I think that he did some things for Pike that no other master has done. So, but welcome back to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, Chris, we've been talking at least a year about this topic we're going to kick off today. And everyone remembers Russ Brown, and Russ Brown talked a lot about the secret sauce in a book. And so Chris wanted to really tailor that with basically the comeback sauce for Masonry. What brings you back? So we're going to have a bit of a dialogue, and as we do, think about these questions that Chris is posing in the conversation, because it could be the difference between why somebody comes to the next meeting or why they never come back. Fair?
Absolutely.
So you've got the floor, my friend. I'm anxious to see the direction this will go. We literally had about 15 seconds of prep time. Sound about right?
Yes, it does.
All right, yeah.
So Russ Brown's favorite book, I can't remember the title right now, but it talks about the comeback sauce, the sauce a restaurant has that makes people come back, like the Chick-fil-A sauce.
Yeah, and not the sauce, but the recipe for customer service or the experience.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So my question to you, you joined 2009.
Okay.
You had 2 young kids.
Yes.
What made you come back to Albert Pike after you got your 3rd degree? What made you get active?
So there were a couple of reasons. One, I always say I was tricked by Roger to get on the line, and when I was raised in October, in January, I was on his line. But that's not what kept me coming back. There was that with Roger, but several of the guys that I came through with, we had, and Pike still does, if you're not doing this and your degree work is crap, think this through, but Pike still to this day does a study club. And historically, if you go back before our time, it was you had to be the master of a study club and have some cards before you'd even be considered to be on the Pike line, just because of the volume of our membership. So
we had study club officers is what it means.
Study club officers, and you would switch positions every quarter.
Yeah.
You would rotate through if you would advance, which I think is genius. So we used to meet at this little crappy church in downtown Wichita where you wouldn't want to be during the day, let alone at night, right? And we did study club with Albert Pike and Pyramid Lodge at the time. We used to call it Pira Pike, right? It was very clever. So, but to answer your question, what kept me coming back is kind of like a workout partner. If you have that, you can't both not want to work out on the same day. You have to find the right one that's not as lazy as you, for example. And so there'd be times with Donovan or Mike or Doug or even Rensner when we were all kind of going through. It's like, hey, I'm going to go. Are you going to study club tonight? And the question was, I'm not going to go, but are you going to study club? Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'll go. So it's a little bit of the peer pressure, not wanting to let your people down. But once we got there, it's kind of like a meeting, right? We don't go there for the meetings and the consent agenda and the bill pay and all that nonsense. We go there for the camaraderie and the fellowship and people that'll shoot straight with you. So the reason I kept coming back initially was wanted to be a good officer. There were other people that were like-minded, and we were trying to go through the ranks together. And I think that's the long, short answer.
Yeah. I can almost positively say the reason Mike Ward came back was you.
Well, no, I think, for both of us.
Yeah.
Now, what was interesting is I only wanted to be a Shriner. I didn't care about Blue Lodge. Mike did not want to be a Shriner and only cared about Blue Lodge. What's interesting is we joined for opposite, and we went through the line, but kind of took a different direction. I think at one time I was known as Blue Lodge guy. One time probably a Shrine, but I'm probably a hybrid.
I think you're a Blue Lodge guy.
You think I'm more Blue Lodge? Yeah. I would like to think I'm more of a Blue Lodge guy. I would think Mike might be known as more of a Shrine guy now.
Probably. Yeah.
Probably. But it's not that his lack of love for. It's just I think he had a lot of movement, a lot of success through there.
Yeah.
So, let's flip it. Why did you initially come back? And then I guess we can get back to after you were a master. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah. So initially, I joined when I was 22. And I met Byrd, Joe Beck, Doug Chartier, Kevin Kahn, and after every meeting, it didn't matter whether it was study club or a stated meeting, we'd go to the Shamrock.
We would. I forgot about that. You said that. Yeah.
And that's what I was coming to Lodge for. I didn't care about the stated meeting. I don't care about paying bills, reading minutes. But
listen, boys.
Yeah. You want younger guys, millennials, you don't do it with stated meetings. You do it with the fun outside of Lodge. But at 22, I got to hang out with you and a doctor, Beck. You guys made me so much better.
Well, it's kind of funny if those of you that watch this that know us, we don't hang shit on people we don't like. And when you come and you're like, oh my God, I feel like I've been roasted by all these guys, it's because we love you.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, I don't know that Byrd's ever roasted me. I don't like you. So
you must really like Bob Talbot.
Oh, I roast Bob all the time. I feel like I need to insert. Yep, just did. So
I'm sorry.
Most worshipful. He set that up, by the way. But yeah, I forgot the times at the Shamrock, but it goes back to that camaraderie. But I think what we learned about each other, sitting around the table having a drink, and we had non-drinkers in the mix too.
Yeah.
But what we learned about each other, I think it helps present tense mold us to who we are, and it. Again, we can hang shit on each other, but nobody else better, because that's a totally different argument. An outsider better not say what we just said, right? Is
Absolutely.
that fair?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I forgot about the Shamrock. What a great vibe.
Did you ever watch Mr. Wizard growing up? The science guy on TV?
No.
So I actually got to meet him. He's a Mason. And he once explained Masonry like a pomegranate. It's like you cut into the pomegranate and you have a lot of seeds.
Yeah.
And that's the stated meetings, the degree work, the boring stuff that's necessary for Masonry to continue.
Okay.
But the meat of the pomegranate, that's the Shamrock. That's what we're doing here.
Okay.
And we need more of this for Masonry to survive.
Yeah. I
gotta have a little bit more fun.
Yeah, and that's a good analogy too.
That's a very smart guy.
Yeah, hence the wizard. I don't know if he's any Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Oh, he's better.
Really?
Yeah, he's better.
We'll have to go back to that. We'll digress yet again. So, how does a lodge? How does a Grand Lodge, how does a Shrine Center, how does a York Rite Group, how does a Scottish Rite, how do all of these appended bodies, how do we determine, because is it fair that although our comeback sauce is very similar, do you think that the main ingredient for that comeback sauce is the same for most?
For most, probably, but I think there's other things like esoteric studies.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people who can come in and find the right guys to talk to where they'll bond over that. But I think the majority of it is you find people to bond with.
Right.
I mean, we are a fraternity.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And so you're a lodge in a small town in Alabama that allows Black Masons. So you're a lodge in a small town in Alabama, and your membership's not quite moving. How should they go about finding out what the comeback sauce is for their lodge?
Well, we talked before about the non-comeback sauce. because that's just as bad. There's things you can do that make people not want to come back.
Sure.
So the first thing I would do as a small lodge is figure out, are we doing something to make people not want to come back?
Something just so gross.
Or maybe
it could be a leadership style.
Yes. Not to be mean, but I've seen there's a few lodges that have these old guys that just make people not want to come back, whether they control the conversation and talk about things nobody wants to talk about, or they think they're smarter than everybody else and they act that way. But there was a time at Pike, there was a member that we had when I first joined before I was an officer that made me not want to come back. And I almost didn't, but because of the Shamrock, I did. And I put up with this guy for many years and decided the positives were better than the negatives. But if your small lodge doesn't have enough positives, one guy could run people away.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Well, and conversely, we talked about it in our 15-second prep. Chris's words were, you're the reason that somebody's coming back. But conversely, you could also be the reason that somebody's not coming back. I mean, we're ain't out to do, but I'm quite certain, at least me, the primary, I'm probably a primary for one dude not coming back to the lodge, and
1 or 10, yeah.
1 or 10. And, every member counts, but, the one that we were talking about, it's like, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing for us, right?
Sometimes I think it's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
because
I guess
that guy, if he
if
stayed,
one person in a lodge our size, if one person can change your experience, I don't know that you've dug in enough. Right?
Yeah.
So like for you, one person was changing your experience. If you had not dug in and hung out, you would have been gone.
Yeah.
So I guess the positive is at 22, think about this at 22. You've got some older guy, and everyone's old at 22, right? You got some older guy that he's rubbed you the wrong way. Your middle finger to the air and you're out.
Yeah.
Right?
Because what do you really get out of Masonry? At that point, you don't know what you're going to get out of it.
You don't know yet, right?
Yeah.
Especially early on. Now, later in your career, it's like, you know what? You're just like, you shut up. I'm not even dealing with you. Because, and here's the thing. I always tell people when they go to join Masonry, we've got, a million Masons. You are not going to like all of them, right? You'll respect them. You don't have to roll with them. I mean, it's no different than coworkers. You can work great with somebody, but that doesn't mean you're going to go to the Shamrock with them afterwards. So if you're there for the right reason and for personal growth or whatnot, you can't let one or two people change it. And the other side of it is they may not be there long anyway, especially if I didn't like him as a master. All right, then come back next year.
Yeah.
Right? My style in 2015 for our lodge, it turned some people off, right? Mike's style, because he brought public awareness and a lot of fundraising, it turned people off, right? And it's just how it is, right? And I don't know, truly, I don't think a master makes or breaks a lodge. They are the spokesperson that year. It's up, if that year is successful, for the lodge, that means the lodge did a good job. It is not a master thing. I mean, you're a spokesperson.
Well, I don't know. I've seen some pretty bad years.
We have. We have. And
I wouldn't blame the lodge.
Yeah, and some of us have achieved very good years. So, but yeah. To your point. So.
Yeah.
So the comeback, what do the listeners need to know about the comeback sales? How do we get there? Do they do a lodge survey? Do they just do something as simple as, hey, I'm going to bang the gavel. We're gonna go at ease. I want you to drag your chairs to the center of the room in a circle, and let's just have family dinner. What's up?
Yeah,
right.
You were talking about some little things like calling each other before lodge. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, are you going to study club? Are you going to lodge? Just an officer calling somebody that's not an officer, asking, hey, are you going to lodge? That guy is 90% more likely going to go to lodge because he was personally asked.
Right.
It means a lot when someone actually cares if you're going to be there.
That's fair.
Yeah. There was one guy, he was pretty new. I hadn't seen him for a couple months, so I investigated him. So I called him and I said, hey, man, it's been a while. You doing all right? That little phone call meant so much to him. It meant nothing to me. I didn't even think about it when I did it.
Right. You're just, doing the right. We had a conversation about another topic, and we're like, we're going to do that. Well, it's the right thing. Well, because it's the right thing.
Yeah.
Right. You know what? You do the right thing because, it's the right thing.
Yeah.
So you send a text or a call, and that can change somebody. You also never know what that does.
Yeah. What it could mean to somebody. Well, and I've been talking to my dad about this. When it comes to a small lodge, one of the reasons I think Albert Pike is so successful is, especially when you were master, all the officers were friends. If Masonry were to stop existing and Albert Pike didn't exist, most of your line officer, they would have been friends outside of lodge still.
Well, the funny thing is, none of us knew anybody beforehand.
Yep.
So that's interesting that you say that, but maybe because I think the other thing, and you'll see this on an episode that Worshipful Kevin Kahn and I did with past masters. We're in a little bit of a lull, but at Pike, I think our past masters, compared to probably anyone else, we smoke them, but we were getting together every couple of months, every 2-3 months for a dinner and whatnot. We've kind of slowed down a little bit. We need to kind of get back into that. But those are the little things that make a difference too. And it's not everybody at the table you're going to ride with, and you just sit in a different chair, right? But it's to go there because you've all been through it together, and it's also because we can just kind of talk crap on the line officers or get ready for the next thing that we do.
We were actually friends.
Yeah, no,
we enjoy hanging out with each other.
Absolutely, that's a great point. And I think even us talking about going to a birthday party and kind of different things like that, and I think it's the real secret to Masonry is it's not the rituals or the handshakes or all the different things that you guys think it is. The real secret is we really take the time. We start on this common base ground, and then if you put in some effort, you take the time to get to know one another, and you laugh together, you cry together, you hang shit on each other, all the different things that you do. But that's really what dudes do.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's what dudes do. So,
but would you be active at a lodge if it was just lodge and there was no friendship after?
Oh gosh, no.
No. What's the point?
No, but that's your comeback sauce.
Yeah.
The people's are the comeback sauce, and the
relationships.
Yeah, the relationships. Yeah. The relationships, and it makes me wonder when you start to see some of our older past masters that don't come around as much, is maybe it's their friends have passed, or they don't come around as much, and it's not as fluid.
They don't know the guys as well, and they're not. It's hard to get
the peer pressure. And listen, peer pressure is real at every age. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a good thing, right? But for lodge, I think the peer pressure because of the friendships and the camaraderie, the real base thing.
I'm sure you peer pressured Russ Brown into going to lodge quite a bit.
What's interesting? I probably have to give Russ the nod to that. He might peer pressure me more.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'd have to. I peer pressured him to go to shrine stuff. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, but it's that kind of that equal peer pressure. It's not like, hey, listen, don't act like there hadn't been times that we'll go to dinner or grab a drink beforehand. It's like, okay, do we really want to go to this event? That may or may not have happened. But, if we need to be there, we need to be there. And I think, when your lodge reaches out to you, whether it's the lodge or the people, if you're available, it really is our obligation to make sure that we get there.
So that was the next question you were going to ask. After being master, what brought you back to lodge?
Well,
it's been a long time.
Yes, so it's I wouldn't say I'm back. Little different situation.
Well, you were trustee for a while.
Well, but I came right out of the East and 3 years of DDGM.
Yeah.
I think 2 or 3 Grand Lodge appointments,
committees
in there. Then on committees, all excuses not to come. Really, the only legit kind of excuse I had was when my wife got sick. But really, that didn't take up 2 hours on. I could have freed up 2 hours on a Wednesday.
She probably would have liked to get rid of you for 2 hours.
I need you to shut your mouth, Chris, but you're probably right. And, as she watches these damn things, and she's probably sitting there, So here's the other thing about Masonry. I digress. Chris came over to shoot, and I don't even think Chris is fully in the door before my wife comes over and gives him a big hug. No. That's the other cool thing about Masonry, because that's how you know. Like with me, if I go somewhere and I know if I got one of my boys isn't super happy, is how the wife treats me, right? Because you're like, I wonder if something's, or you just see something a little bit different. Maybe it's a little Duggar side hug. Yeah. But those are one of the things too, right?
Absolutely.
And obviously you knew her before you became a Mason.
I did. Yeah.
So which is fascinating as well.
And you knew my sister before.
Yes. So and again, everyone thinks Wichita's small. If you go out to our MSA, we're close to 500,000. So we're a small big town, big small town. How would you say that? We're a big town. We're a bigger town with small town vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's all. I may have to edit that out. That's messy. So.
So one thing that Kevin Kahn talks about a lot that he liked was, I can't remember if it was you or Mike Ward, but the date night, getting the wives involved together.
We started off to the Mellard Manifesto.
Yeah.
But yes, that started in 2015 because of Richard Mellard. And I know he cringes when I call it the Mellard Manifesto, but that really changed a lot of things that we do at Pike, and a lot of that has continued.
Opened our eyes.
It did, but you want to talk about a comeback sauce. I could argue that some of the changes from a person that just put together this, I don't know how many pages it was, it felt like a lot.
It was pretty heavy.
Yeah, but well drafted and put together. But basically, and I know these are my words, not Richard's, but it kind of put Pike on notice. Like, guys, do better.
Yeah.
And I still love that he did that.
He was Mason of the Year.
He was Mason of the Year, and I will tell you, he's a great human. That right there, it was going to be pretty hard to bump somebody out of that one, just because, now, you don't know when it happens, the lasting effects. Now, in hindsight, you're like, there's always different opinions of who should be what, but I think that was a very interesting thing, the trajectory for Pike. But that date night was one of them on there. I enjoyed that.
Kevin Kahn still talks about it.
Yeah, but it's those little things, and I can't remember all the places we did. Kobe and Roxy's and all the different things
out at Sedgwick.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of that place.
Yeah, Size.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sai. He's a Pike Mason. We should know, but we should do better. But yeah, those little things. But that could be your comeback sauce. We should do an episode. We need to find the Mellard Manifesto.
We've moved twice since then.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can't find it. It's probably in a box.
That would be interesting to go back through,
see how well we've done.
Over 10 years later.
Yeah.
And say, here's the Mellard Manifesto 10 years in review.
I think he would be pretty proud of the change he was part of happening.
He heavily influenced? I sure hope so.
Yeah.
I sure hope so. But I think that brought a lot of people either back or kept them from leaving, maybe.
Gave them a reason to come back.
Right.
Yeah.
To your point, the whole essence of this with the comeback sauce.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you should be the Richard Mellard of your lodge. If there's something that's just like, we need to pivot, don't quit. Try one last thing. Put it together. Don't be chastising. Just say, hey, these are things from my perspective. It's hard to argue when you say, my feelings are this. You can't argue with your feelings. Your feelings can be dumb. That's what I said. But you can't argue with someone's feelings. They feel that way. You may not understand them, but I think you guys should be the Richard Mellards of your lodge.
And ask yourself, are you the reason someone's coming back? Or are you the reason someone stopped coming? And try to make it the reason someone comes back. The little things, communicate with them, make them feel important.
Yeah. The one thing about any jurisdiction that I visited lodges in, I think most Masons are really good about coming up, giving that warm handshake and the smile, and coming back to Pike. That been back a couple of times recently, and you don't know a lot of the faces, but wow,
Yeah.
It's always like home though. You'll find after lodge, you find your corner, and there'll be 4 people in a group of 7 you don't know, and there's just mudslinging.
That's because the new guys, you might not know them, but they know you because we tell stories.
Oh, well, there's that. So, well, I wish they'd be a little more terrified. So, but no, it's great. And hopefully that's their comeback sauce. But yeah, I guess Chris, to your point is, if you're the reason people come back, how do you bottle that? How do you mentor that? If you're the reason somebody doesn't come back, assess it, and are you okay with it? Or are you not okay? Generally, it's not okay if you're the reason somebody doesn't come back. Generally.
Unless you're doing it on purpose and that you want the guy to,
Yeah, and I don't
on
think,
rare occasions.
I don't think that we would do that on purpose.
Sure. No, of course not.
But yeah. But
Jimmy Craig always used to say that as a new candidate, he's the most important guy of every meeting he goes to because he's new. We all come together to do his degree work. He's the number one guy.
he's the center focus, yeah.
And then he becomes a Master Mason, and he's on the level. He's not important anymore. He's just a normal member. And sometimes that effect can really cause some damage on guys.
Jimmy has nuggets like that.
He does.
But when you think about it, you are the man. You're the headliner of the show.
You got 30 guys coming to do your degree work.
Hi, congratulations, da 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 da. Then all of a sudden, you're just one of us. That's the only time you're like, wait a minute, I don't really want to be on the level anymore. Is there a 4th degree? Yeah, not here. So yeah. I mean, you can go in the Scottish Rite, York Rite, go to 32. You can go into the old Clandy organizations and get 99 if you'd like. Better have some extra cash. So, but anything else that we want to leave our brothers with on the comeback sauce?
Just be the reason someone comes back and you win.
We'll leave with that. Chris, thanks for joining the Old Fashioned Masonic Podcast, gentlemen. Be the reason someone comes back. Cheers.